when I work with schools, I see them focusing on four primary directions. One is the direction of deeper learning. So how do we get beyond factual recall and procedural regurgitation, worksheets and end of chapter review questions and all that stuff. And how do we have you focus more on critical thinking and problem solving and sort of deeper learning opportunities where the cognitive complexity of the work that we ask you to do rises up quite a bit instead of simply regurgitating stuff. Second big shift is really around how do we make our work more authentic. So, we have a lot of students who are trying to figure out how to make meaning and relevance of the learning tasks that we put in front of them, but we can connect that work to the real world around us, right? We're engaged in our local communities, global communities, online communities, whatever. Then we stop having students ask questions like, why do I need to know this? Why do I care? What meaning does it have? So that's good work. Third big shift is really around student agency. So how do we give kids more ownership and control over their own learning instead of being told what to do all the time? We know that that's a huge motivational factor, right? Is when you have more autonomy of your own learning, you're more engaged and motivated. That also allows us to differentiate and personalize the learning so that you might be learning what you're interested in, but somebody else is learning what they're interested in a different way. And then finally, the fourth shift is really around the shift from analog to digital. How do we use technology as a powerful lever to make those first three shifts happen? So we can do deeper learning work and more authentic work and give kids agency in ways with technology that we simply can't without. I remember when I was in middle school and high school and just how deadly dull and boring most of that work was. And just, have been trying to figure out as new technologies create new possibilities for students and teachers and school systems, is just really trying to figure out how do we take advantage of those and how do we really transform learning and teaching to take advantage of all the new powerful forms of learning that we have available to us. One of my favorite schools is a school in Iowa. It's called Iowa Big. Iowa Big is a place where students work side by side with companies and county and city agencies and local nonprofits on projects from the outside groups, right? So for example, a company might come to the school and say, we're working on an aquatic drone that cleans up plastic waste in rivers and oceans, and we want a couple students to work with us. The county might come and say, we're trying to create our first young women's entrepreneurship community and annual conference. We want a couple students to come work with us. So it's this wonderful combination of a community project pool and then students working side by side with professionals out in the field to do real world work. And then as they do that work, they're mapping their learning standards to what they do. So, if you're working on the drone, you have to know a lot of math and science. So the teacher sits down with you occasionally and check off the standards that you've hit. And at some point you get half a year of physics or half a year of calculus or whatever. So sort of this amazing place, right? So most states haven't gotten rid of their standardized tests yet, right? But I think one of the things we're figuring out is that there's lots of ways to accomplish that work. So if you want our young people to accomplish the standards that the state has dictated, right, and it may give you an occasional test on, one way to do that is to focus on worksheets and practice problems and chapter review questions and all sort of the boring stuff that we've typically done in the past, right? Or we could have things like, let's have you build rockets and robots and work side by side with community partners, and you learn your stuff that way along the way, right? And so there's more than one path to learning what the state wants us to do. And I think one of the things we're finding from these deeper learning schools, there's about 500 to 700 of them across the country, is that when we allow kids to do meaningful real world work, they learn in deeper ways, they're more engaged in the work that they're doing, and surprise, surprise, they actually do better on the state tests than the more traditional ways of learning and teaching. I think one of the things I want to emphasize here is that it's not really about the technology, it's really about how do we change our teaching techniques and how do we create new opportunities for students. So I have a protocol that's designed around those four shifts that I talked about, right, where we can take an existing lesson or unit and start moving it towards deeper learning, start moving it towards more agency for students, start moving it towards more authentic work and so on. So the protocol helps teachers redesign stuff that they already have or design new activities for students to learn in those different ways. So one of those areas of the protocol is around technology, some things that we can use technology to make happen. But most of it has nothing to do with tech and really has to do with sort of our mindset about what learning and teaching should look like.